Hey guys, it's Fifth Lauren, also known as 944. Don't forget Thorin's YouTube channel.
When I say that ELEAGUE are not getting much out of their premieres, the ELEAGUE premiere that they hold each year now, that is coming from an esports background, from the traditional CSGO circuit, and from that context, I'm baffled by some of the advantages ELEAGUE have that they seemingly don't exploit, don't build upon, don't use to make themselves the #1 tournament organizer in the world, even if it's just for one tournament a year in CSGO. Consider the situation ELEAGUE has. First place at the ELEAGUE Premier is $500,000. Now, first place at DreamHack Masters. Think of DreamHack Masters Marseille, DreamHack Masters Stockholm, $100,000. First place at ESL1 Cologne in the Cathedral of Counter-Strike, the Lanxess Arena, one of the biggest events of the year, $125,000. These are huge, prestigious events, memorable, the kind that leap off the page. You remember them vividly each year. Players dream of winning a tournament like that or going on an inspired Cinderella run like Big did at ESL Cologne. These are the highlights of the calendar. Now you look at what ELEAGUE is like. It's a good event. It's one of the better events in terms of quality of play, in terms of teams there. They get all the top teams because of that prize money, because of the setup, because of how they treat people. Do they get the same prestige though? Do people think of ELEAGUE Premier the same way they think of Epicenter, ESL1 Cologne, DreamHack Masters, the majors? They don't really. And part of it is, it doesn't have the rest of it. It doesn't have the atmosphere. It doesn't have the sheen of this prestige, this quality, this thing where people just know that's a tournament you have to win. And yet, it's got a great format as well. GSL system, best of threes in all the matches. Again, most people, most analysts, most players would say this is their ideal format right now, the best format. Again, this should make the tournament epic. Then you look at the fields they're getting. They're getting the best teams. Like, I think this last ELEAGUE Premier, they had actually the top 8 ranked teams in the world from whatever the date they started issuing the invites from. So they've got all the best teams. So why isn't an ELEAGUE Premier like these huge events I'm talking about? Well, let's start with this issue of prestige, right? I mean, what does that mean, prestige? What we mean is, how important is this tournament? How key is this one to win over other ones? Sometimes the prize money doesn't matter as much if it's an event like ESL1 Cologne. ESL1 Cologne's up there with majors in terms of people wanting to win this event, attend this event, qualify for this event, make a deep run in this event, play in front of the crowd at this event. So part of this, on one level, to make prestige, you want it to be very hard to win, right? Now, certainly, you invite the top teams, you put big prize money, it's going to be hard to win. But an element that doesn't exist in ELEAGUE that makes an event like ESL1 Cologne very hard to win is that atmosphere I described, the location, the setting, exactly what the stage setup will be like. Having a huge stage and therefore big time pressure on you. Having a history of prestige which makes people think, oh God, I've seen Virtus Pro on that stage. I've seen NIP on that stage. I've seen Fnatic on that stage. Knowing what it means to go to that event. Having an epic location like the Lanxess Arena, massive sporting stadium, huge crowds and fan sections and all the different light shows and the spider cams, everything. Crowd atmosphere being big, chanting sections, different areas with certain fans, like crowds getting noisy when there's a comeback or an unexpected kill. This all adds to how epic an event is, how hard it is to win, to overcome those aspects. Play your normal game, how you practice at home. Now let's look at the reality of ELEAGUE. They play it in a small studio. Sure, the majors had the big location because those are majors. ELEAGUE Premier seasons, ELEAGUE seasons in the past, ELEAGUE Season 2, ELEAGUE Season 1, they just take place in a TV studio. So, okay, great, controlled environment. You can control everything. Games are going to run on time. You know all the equipment. You're swapping people in and out. You've got great security. These are all great factors. Problem is, though, a little TV studio, as amazing it is for lighting and production, it's never going to have the same epic atmosphere as a massive stadium, as a place with tons of fans, as a place with a history with darkened lights and spotlights upon you and smoke coming off the stage. Like, you're not going to get that same vibe. It's the same reason why, sure, a musician might say, oh, sometimes I like to do intimate gigs, play a small one, a few hundred people. Yeah, they might say that, but they don't get the same chills as when they go and play one of those, like, River Plate Stadium with 100,000 people in there sing along to every track. That's going to be a bit more memorable in the back of your mind and perhaps harder to pull off a great gig for. So the premium upon being able to play those big stadiums, pack them out and then deliver is very big, and that's why we consider those the biggest acts in the world, and we consider the teams that can win these events the Fnatics, the Astralises, the Enviouses of history and old, the legendary teams, because they could deliver under that pressure. You look at the TV studio, not only is the studio small and not a massive stage setup, but then you have a very small crowd, so you can only fit a few hundred people in. Most of them aren't, quite frankly, die-hard fans. They aren't people who've travelled like 9 hours or across a continent or like always support Fnatic with this jersey or like Virtus Pro jersey. They've been there from day one. No, a lot of them are people in the local area or people who have time to come down or the first ones to get in free tickets. So it's also not the same sort of fever pitch that you hit. It's not like when Big was making that run through to the Cologne final, beating FaZe Clan, the whole crowd was going absolutely fucking mental. You don't really get that whole thing. And yet that is the bizarre thing about the ELEAGUE situation. With the budget they've got, with the resources they've got, with everything at their disposal right now, they could do the biggest event of the year in CSGO. They could do something that would literally not just... I mean, sure, they might not have the technical expertise necessary to do what ESL does with ESL 1 Cologne, but if they got the right people, they could make an event bigger than that, arguably. They could make an event bigger than a major. They've got as much money and prize money and background with the TV and everything to potentially do that. But the problem is, and this is why I was very careful about how I phrased this at the beginning of the video, they have very different goals and they have different markers and metrics for what success is. So first and foremost, they are a TV channel on basic cable and their aim is to fill a time slot, to fill that with the content they need. If they go over, then they're going to have to cut some of that. They want to put their product out there, have it get a certain amount of views relative to how much they spent, and have potentially replay value if you need to have some filler content for later. That's why ELEAGUE doesn't care as much about the online views. It's not about the Twitch streaming numbers. It's about the numbers on their TV channel they show. And unfortunately, if you're one of those people who's been following when the numbers get released, it has actually been proven that when they do CSGO, despite what we know about the online audience and what a massive esport game it is, and you can fill stadiums and there's millions concurrent on the major streams, when it comes to the ELEAGUE seasons, their episodes with CSGO sometimes get less than, or very rarely get much more than when they do an episode of a fighting game you may have never heard of. Mortal Kombat, Injustice 2, whatever it is. Not big esports games at all. Those games can get bigger viewing figures or the same viewing figures. So why would you put on a massive event in a stadium? Why would you go to these extra lengths? Why would you take the money that you're already seemingly spending correctly? You're getting all the teams you want, all the setup you want, all the content you want, and create something extraordinary. They're a TV channel. They're trying to make programming for their TV channel, do a good job with it, do it in their own way, have their own twist to it, move on with their lives and do other TV programming. If it's a game that warrants it enough, which it doesn't currently, then they might go above and beyond and increase the budget. But otherwise, they don't have the same goals as us. They're not plagued with the same ambition to do the biggest event in the world. That's probably not something they consider a goal. They want to do events in their own particular way. I just think personally, first of all, just to be cynical, I think you could do the exact same event as ELEAGUE does right now with half the prize money. If the first place is 250k and everything was scaled down half, I think most teams would still go. I think teams would go for the TV exposure. I think you'd get most of the same top teams. I think the prize money's enough. I think they like stage setup. I think they love the way they're treated by ELEAGUE, that you would still get most, if not all, of the top teams. You'd have the same exact tournament. You're in the same studio. Someone who wins it, here's a little secret for you in case you haven't followed much esports. People competed just as hard, and some of the top teams practiced just as hard when you won 20,000 for first place as when you win 500,000 for first place, like at ELEAGUE Premier and like at the majors. Like, there really isn't a difference, because when you got to that level of obsession, that excellence, that top work ethic, it doesn't matter whether you're competing for a little bit of money or a lot. You didn't do it for the money. That was a byproduct, a marker of success. You did it to achieve excellence, to achieve greatness. So first of all, they could be cynical and just spend a lot less money. Or they could halve the budget for that and put some of it into some of these aspects I'm talking about. Have a one-off studio for the finals. Make it more of a big setup. Maybe have some more content that leads up to that, that hypes everyone for it. Makes it a very prestigious occasion. Have some sort of hybrid. So the finals a big stage match, but the rest of it's in the studio. I don't know what it would be. But at the moment, that's the one kind of main criticism I have of ELEAGUE. I like everything else about the way they do it. I think in some ways they are the best tournament organised, except they only do one a year. But I wish it just had more of an epic feel to it, because at the moment when someone wins the ELEAGUE Premier, I kind of think like, okay, it was a good tournament, these are good matches, this is quality Counter-Strike. Where's the epic feel, though? Where's the part where you get the chills just watching the match? I get it in some senses if it's an epic matchup, but I'm not getting the atmosphere, the ambience, the vibe in the same way as I would if I was watching some of the other tournaments, like some of the ones I listed. And so that might not be ELEAGUE's goal, but I feel like it's a little bit underwhelming. I feel like they could get more out of these premieres that they're doing. This video was kindly supported by Gardner Wilson, Dean Tanglis, Alex Adams, Eddie Wingfors, Andreas, Snazore, Westerlund, Godawful Waste of Space, Kyla Harris, Travis Greb, James Harding, Daniel Yordanov, VeXii, Robert Baxter, and a special thanks goes out to Jerky's Minion. Now, do you want to suggest a topic or a guest for my content? Perhaps you'd like to ask me a question for my monthly AMA. Would you like teasers to see who's coming next on my upcoming content and what's going to be coming down the pipeline? Perhaps you want to take part in an esports discussion with me. Well, put your money where your mouth is and join the Scrilluminati today via the Patreon link below.